Welcome back. Right now we have the first of the Fieldays Future Focus series with thanks to Farmlands. It's a series that connects with the movers and the shakers of the sector to discuss the issues impacting the sector now and in the future. Today's topic is a chance to get an insight into how business leaders see the future outlook for the primary sector and how leadership and innovation will influence direction. Well, with me today is Peter Reedy, Chief Executive of Farmlands Cooperative Society, Tony Baird, Wholesale and Infrastructure Director of Vodafone, and Joe Finer, Strategic Leader and Business Consultant. Great to have you all here.
Thank you.
Tony, can I first start with you? What will it take for us to get good leaders? I mean, we've already got good leaders, but to continue to have good leaders in the rural sector?
Look, I think it's a combination of education and training, access to the right tools and methodologies, and actually being seen globally as the leader that we are in high tech and in agriculture.
And surely the current situation that we're in, the economic pressures that we're under, that puts a lot of extra pressure on finding those kind of people and keeping our role as leaders on the global stage? Yeah,
absolutely. So I think, again, it's around automation as well. So doing more things with less resources, but automating, making sure that we have technology intersecting with rural practices is also really important, so that intersection.
Joe, how do you see it? How do we attract good people to the sector?
It has to look really attractive, right? All the way from staff we want to bring in on farm right through to the other end of the value chain where we're out marketing and we're working in logistics and supply chain and getting into our global markets. So we need to tell exciting stories. We need to, for individuals to see that there's a great career opportunities, there's international business, there's global travel, and that we are part of, the largest export earning sector in New Zealand. So we have to kind of really, I think, amp it up, hype it up, tell great stories, and just put great role models out there as well.
Sure, but that story's changed a bit now, isn't it? When you say, we've got international companies, there's an opportunity to travel. Well, we're a bit restricted on that right now, aren't we?
That's where the technology comes in, I think. More and more people will be trading via the cloud. I think we've seen people are working from home or working from the farm a lot more now than they were probably 3 to 4 months ago, and I think our export industry will benefit from that as well. You'll probably be able to do a lot more remotely using international connectivity via telecommunications as an example.
Peter, what's your experience? How do you see it? How do we bring good people or continue to bring good people into the sector?
Yeah, well, I'd start by saying as an industry we get what we deserve, and I think that if we really want great leadership in our industry, we've got to invest in getting great leadership. One of the great opportunities that COVID has presented us is it's put us a little bit more as flavour of the month in terms of an industry that's going to help New Zealand through reasonably serious and dramatic times, and that should give us an opportunity to tell those great stories that Joe was talking about and attract good people to our games.
Who exactly, though, are you looking for? What kind of people do you think, Peter?
Well, I think the industry has been built around efficiency. We have been great users and utilisers of our land. We've got to now build our industry and do a little bit of about face and build around value. And how do we create value and be the most valuable products from our land? And I think that requires a different kind of leader. So it requires someone with a broader perspective, a great vision for where the future is going versus where the past has been, and someone who can capture what New Zealand really needs to do to change the game in an area where it's really, really important to New Zealand, but in reality, our outputs relative to the rest of the world in food are relatively small. So given that they're small, how do we make them more valuable to earn more dollars to help New Zealand in times of change? And leaders that can deliver on that are important to us.
I agree with that. The other area I'm quite passionate about is using the fact that we are a rural producer of food, but actually turning it into a high-tech industry, so where we can develop tools and systems and automation and export those as value-added industries.
Can you give me an example of that,
Tony?
Yeah,
things like, Gallagher as an example, and looking at how you can take the automation productivity tool sets and export those as an export earner, and looking at how we automate the processes end to end, and making that sort of an export industry, not just the actual primary produce itself.
Right, so our technology becomes the product that we send offshore.
Yes.
Joe, how do you see
We
it?
also have to make sure, though, that we put the right kind of working conditions out there for our people, because, you know, we have been at fault at some parts across our primary sector value chain of really not providing the right kind of, I guess, working conditions, working hours, things like that.
What do you mean by that?
Particularly on farm, people have really had to be quite isolated in the way they work, put some really long, tough hours in, and you know, it's fantastic what people have done over past, you know, decades and past generations to do that. But to continue to attract people, we do have to think about allowing people to have a more balanced life, allowing people to have access, particularly if they're living more remotely, to be able to have that kind of, you know, social life, and providing them good housing conditions, etc.
What about education? I mean, are we educating our young people towards these amazing careers in the rural sector? Do you think we've set up the right courses for them? There's a lot of talk about that at the moment.
Yeah, so more and more things are coming online. So online education, access to broadband. We're party to a partnership with Spark and 2 Degrees to put out 600 cell towers into rural New Zealand, so that you get access to broadband and other technologies, including machine-to-machine IoT. So expanding out connectivity is as important as formal education with universities and schools and other things. So it's going to be a combination of online and formal.
In my view, would be that a lot of the training programs and the platforms are there. Primary ITO, for example, got some great programs in place. I think we missed the attraction piece. I think it's actually finding the numbers of young people, or those who are looking for career changes, who really see the primary sector, the agri-food sector, as being that real attractive place that they want to go. So that the courses are there, the programs are there, but, you know, we need to go back and tell the good stories and make them excited about the future.
Peter, what would you say to that? How do we make it more attractive? We've got the education, we've got the courses in place.
Yeah, I would say that we should recognise we do have some great institutions, and Massey and Lincoln do a great job in terms of providing skills for our sector. But I should say the employers have to do something as well. As I said earlier, we get what we deserve, and if we want leadership, we've got to invest in leadership and skills and capabilities. So how does, as a big employer in the sector, what is it that we're doing to nurture, develop and build talent? And I think every organisation in the sector needs to be asking that and doing that. And the world is changing, and so I'm totally on board with the technology as a huge enabler. Both in terms of helping us communicate and upgrade skills, but also in ways to get us to farm better and more effectively, and use our land more in ways that add value across the board. So I think it's an exciting time, and we should be telling the stories about how exciting it is and the opportunities that come from that. And so to me, it's around the wonders of the land with the wonders of technology coming together to create great outcomes for New Zealand.
I agree.
Right, yeah, and I guess that's where innovation, startups and R&D come into it, really, because that is where the excitement is. But times are tough at the moment. Is there money, is there investment going into these areas, do you think?
If we've got the ideas and we're prepared to collaborate and work together, then I think the money is there. If it's too often, though, I think in New Zealand we've kind of tripped over ourselves because one organisation's had one idea, they want to go out into the global marketplace, flying their flag only. And if we can come together and co-invest and share ideas, share facilities, academic and science institutions work together, rather than constantly competing, then yeah, there is the money to go around, and we will really make some great strides.
So there's too much competition at the moment between the various organisations and institutions, and there needs to be more collaboration. How do you do that?
I think standards and standardisations important. When a new idea comes up, making sure that it can be enhanced and developed. Open standards in software are becoming more and more common. I think that's probably a big area, as allows people to healthily have competition, but also develop on base platforms and extend them. We're too small as a country to just do everything DIY these days. Number 8 fencing wire is a great terminology, but you've got to take it to the next level globally.
Yeah, and do you feel there's the funding there, especially in this current economic crisis?
I hope that there's going to be more funding made available. With tourism obviously taking a while to come back, this is a great opportunity to reposition New Zealand as an environmentally sustainable economy, with primary produce right through the value add chain up to high tech, sell it internationally using high tech. I think it's a great opportunity for us as a country to really invest in that area more than we do.
Peter, what do you say about R&D and the investment in innovation? Are the different institutions and organisations too competitive? Do we need to make more effort to work together on things?
Well, I'd like to think that competition can produce some great outcomes. So I think that the key is, as a country and as a sector, we have to align behind a vision, and that vision sets our railway tracks, as it were, and then within those railway tracks we go for it and create ideas and stimulate new ways of doing things. I think, you know, there's numerous examples of primary sector industry doing really well. Look what we've done with kiwi fruit. Look at what some of the wine companies do. Look at some of the fishing companies. Look at some of the lamb products that are out there now that 10 years ago were a distant dream. So innovation is happening. We need to support it. It's a critical time for us as a country, and it is going to be the primary sector and the landowners and what comes off the land and ways we can add value to that is going to make a difference over the near-term horizon. So I'd say there's opportunities for more, and there's definitely opportunities for collaboration, but it's probably more on build on what we've done well and keep doing it, and stop doing what we haven't done so well.
How are farm leaders encouraging this innovation and research and development? Are there some good examples where this is happening?
I think things like what Fieldays is doing in terms of encouraging collaboration, creating themes and ideas where organisations can show what they can do for you. In our own experience, we're working very closely with an organisation like Microsoft, and you can imagine what they can bring to the table in terms of innovation and ideas and resource.
Well, can you tell me a bit more about that, Peter? What are you doing with Microsoft? What exactly are you doing there?
So we have over the last 3 years gone through our entire collection of data and information across the whole business and spectrum of the rural sector that we work with, and we've said that data within any sector or any use of the land, there's a huge difference between the best and the worst, and the way to understand that is to actually have the data to evaluate what is happening on this land versus another piece of land to get a specific outcome. So with Microsoft, we're working up tools where we can understand what's going on the land, where the best outcome is occurring, and then how do we encourage that to happen elsewhere. So if you take something like water quality, the difference between the best farmer on water quality and the worst farmer on water quality is huge. If we can understand what's going on with the best farmer and get to the rest of the sector to do that and do that repeatedly, the upside is huge for us on water quality. So we want systems, we want data, we want knowledge that we can convey to let all land users get to the place of the best land users.
Yeah, likewise at Vodafone, we've been partnering with a number of companies, of which Microsoft would be included, on Internet of Things, IoT, which is putting sensors pretty much everywhere around the farm. So irrigation controllers, A, for compliance, but B, for making sure you get the right moisture quality into the ground, you're not wasting water, effluent disposal, right through to security and other aspects. So Internet of Things, you need connectivity out to the farms. We're building that connectivity with new cell towers that will provide the sorts of data feeds that are needed for these platforms, which will also enhance our capabilities, again, potentially for export as a technology itself as well as a product.
Sure, Joe.
And then when you see that partnering, some other, I think, exciting examples of partnering more in the product development and innovation spaces, where we're now starting to see the seafood industry partner with the dairy industry.
How are they doing that?
The red meat industry starting to partner with dairy also, and yeah, looking at some common products, some common developments. A lot of it's still under wraps. It's exciting innovation that's underway. But where we can kind of break down some of those silos of the kind of the traditional dairy or red meat or horticultural seafood that we've had, that's where we're really starting to see, I think, a lot more, development and R&D come to life.
Sure, and what about in the development of our young leaders? Is there industries working across industries on that kind of thing as well?
Yeah, I think we're seeing increasingly young people coming into graduate programs and being able to move across different parts of the primary sector, of the agri-food sector. And moving particularly into those the technology and kind of infrastructure businesses as well, and seeing that I guess just that merging of knowledge, and that's where you just get something, 1 + 1 + 1 = 5 all of a sudden, because you're bringing different parts together.
Peter, what more do you think we need to do to continue to bring our young leaders through the pipeline and maintain our position as a global leader?
Well, like the point raised earlier around our industry is pretty exciting. It is going through periods of significant change. We are embracing technology. We have a whole world that we can sell to. And so we've sort of been seen as a little bit staid and a little bit conservative. So telling our exciting stories and talking through what kiwi fruit does and what wine does and how technology is coming closer to our industry and the change agenda that is afoot should be able to attract more people than we do. And so I just think there's a whole advocacy job here that we've got to actually remind people of New Zealand's wonderful heritage off the land, but how it's seeking to change that and make it even better. And I think if we do that well, we should be able to attract people to our game. And then once we've attracted them, it's around the career path, the opportunities created, the investment in them, and success. I guess success creates success.
Peter, thanks very much for your time. That's Peter Reedy, Tony Baird and Joe Finer. That brings us to the end of our first Fieldays Future Focus panel. Thanks to all of you for joining us today and sharing your perspectives.
Thank you.